Hi, I'm David. I'm with Construction Software, and today we have Iain McIntyre, Managing Director of DCF Management. How you doing, Iain?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Listen, just to jump into it, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Okay, so quickly about myself, I started my quantity surveying training in 1991, and I did 2 years of that, and then I basically spent 3 years working for a small regional builder, and then went over to London, went and did an OE, and then I did a degree when I was in London, and then came back to New Zealand, and then basically worked for, I think I met Paula, and I worked for Multiplex for about 12 years. And then when I finished up with Multiplex, did a few things, and then I joined Precinct Properties. And then from Precinct Properties, I set up DCF Management in 2016. And we do pretty much, I would describe it, I mean, I wouldn't sort of say we're a typical project manager, but I do project management, development management, engineer the contract sort of things, but really just, trying to help people deliver their property projects in whatever way they need.
Now, Paula's specifically asked me to ask you this. She asked me, you were in construction before, and she
Yes.
said, why did you jump the fence to get into project management, client side?
Well, I guess, why did I jump the fence? I guess I sort of jumped the fence when I was in construction. I was working for Multiplex Constructions, doing, I met Paula on a project called Unilodge, that was in probably 2001, and we worked together on that to get that over the line. And then I did a couple of other construction projects for Multiplex, and then an opportunity came up with Multiplex when they became the joint venture partner for the delivery of the Britomart project. So I transitioned from being a quantity surveyor or contracts administrator, if you want to call it that, to being a development manager. And then from there, I had development management roles with Multiplex and Precinct. And then I guess I sort of came to a junction with Precinct where we were about to start construction on Commercial Bay. And I sort of had a little look ahead at life and thought, well, what do I want to be doing in 5 years? And I sort of decided at that time to go out and have a go at being in my own business, and that's, obviously had its ups and downs with COVID and so forth. So, yeah, so that's a short, I guess, history on my last 30 years of what I've been doing. Yeah.
Well, I hear it's pretty rare to make the transition like that. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Listen, how's business been for you?
Fair to say, we're a small business, and going through COVID hasn't been an easy journey. So, that's been an interesting ride, and we sort of come out of COVID, and you'd hope things would be, maybe sort of a post-war sort of boom thing, if you want to call it that. But obviously the economy in New Zealand is not in great shape, and the biggest issue in the property sector obviously is interest rates right now, where people's ability to get finance, say from a residential perspective, if you're a residential property developer and you sell residential product to people like you and I who want to buy an apartment or a unit or whatever, and the banks are asking you how many coffees you have every week, and interest rates are getting higher, and your serviceability and the cost of living, then I guess there's a natural handbrake on people's appetite to purchase those products, and that just then feeds right back through. And a lot of it hasn't fed through yet, because a lot of people, probably signed up on 5-year rates probably 3 years ago, and they're yet to feel that. So it's going to be an interesting, and then we've got the change of government. I don't know, be careful what I say, but a change of something, because currently what's happening is not working, right? So I can imagine there's, obviously government spending is going to be a lot of pressure on that, given their finances. So there's a whole lot of different pressures. But it's just a cycle, and feasibilities at the moment don't probably work that well because you've got high construction prices, land prices haven't backed off, your finance costs are high, and your revenue, there's pressure on your revenue cost, on your revenue side. So those sort of four key variables, pretty much you can do 100 feasibilities, and they're probably, most of them won't work, right? So but it does mean that, I guess, times like this creates opportunity, and then where to from there with, when things change, then they'll change pretty quick again. And you have cycles like, you sort of had the one after the 87 crash, which is when I was, that took till 1991 really to bottom out. And then you obviously had, there was a little one at 1998 in the New Zealand market, and then we had the 2008 GFC, and then then we had COVID in 2010, and now we're sort of in this post-COVID recession. Well, not recession, but let's call it a difficult environment.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I mean, you're into the quite commercial side of things. I mean, obviously that affects you as well.
Yeah, well, and then, on the commercial side, they got this whole thing about, like, I'm just working from home that happens to be, 160 k's away from Auckland. So how does that all work, and what's the office demand, and, what's people's appetite to be in offices? And, I don't think you can work from home, all week, but there's certainly, and it just depends on what, I'm a empty nester now, so I don't actually have to be at home to see any kids or anything like that. So you do then get a bit more flexibility. So it just ages and stages of life as to how, what your appetite is for working in office. And I guess that comes back to, I was thinking, if I was in precinct, that obviously put a lot of effort into making the built environment and their amenity and their offer, I guess, really outstanding, because I can tell you, I've got a son who's just started work, in the property sector, if you like. And if you said to him, you've got to stay at home and work from home, that would be like, the office is much nicer than home, right? If you're just a graduated student who's on your first job. So if you want to attract young talent, there's a much better place being at home, being in the office than at home, sorry.
Yeah, it's hard to feel that camaraderie and kind of team spirit when you're in a bedroom by yourself.
Well, it doesn't work. And then, like, I guess for young people that were in a flat with 4 people or 5 people during COVID, during the lockdowns, and that would be horrendous.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I always wonder how people in the apartment buildings survive.
Yeah.
I see that your motto is project success is in the pre-construction phase. Can you just tell us a little about that?
Well, it all comes down to planning, right? So, because once you start a construction project, it's really difficult to efficiently change things or react to things, because you've got the time pressure. And the time pressure, if you're making changes during construction, then that's probably the most expensive time to make them. So the more you can plan and lock away and tie down, if you like. I come from a QS background, so if you're getting changes during a live project, then you're sort of, I guess, really on the back foot. It just makes it hard for everyone. If you've got to change a joinery detail or a door or whatever, might sound easy when you're the architect in an office, but when you've got to actually go to a factory and they've got to change something for a door run or something, and they've got a existing workload, I mean, they're just not sitting there waiting for you to change your mind on something. So I guess the more you can lock down in advance of starting construction, then the better off you are, and the simpler you can keep it to, the better. Because I guess now with CAD, you can sort of draw anything you want, and when you get to site, it doesn't always work either.
Yeah, measure twice, cut once.
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah.
Listen, I was going through your website, and the services you offer are vast. Can you explain a little bit about the services you offer?
Yeah, so we've got, I guess, one of our, core differences for us is that, Kyle and I have basically come up through a construction environment. So the key to success in delivering a project is delivering it on program, to the right specification and standard. Because if you're behind program, you're just losing money, and then it all gets really hard and emotional. So I guess the difference, the core difference for us is that, we've been on site sitting in, site sheds frozen from the waist down most of the year, and really understand how to, or what makes projects tick. And really it comes back to having information at the right time and in advance of everything. So there's sort of, I guess, understanding the drivers of design management, and if you've got design queries, it's really about closing everything out and locking everything down as quickly as you can, so people can just get on and build things. Because the more barriers you put into building stuff, and delivering stuff, then the harder it gets. So I guess that's sort of one side of it. From once the project is, got a few different phases, right? So you've got a development phase, you're in pre-construction, but once you hit construction, it's all about just being efficient on site. And that goes back to the pre-planning part and getting that all right and locked away, and, making sure a design's coordinated, the specifications are right, whatever it is, you've got your consents in place and so on. So, and dealing with council these days is, obviously there's a few challenges with that. So making sure that you're on top of that as well.
Yeah. I was looking at your website, and by the way, I'm very impressed with your website. It was great to see how interactive and everything it was. Listen, you're quite a small crew, and I see that most of your work on your website is in the Auckland area. Being kind of mobile as you are, and you could basically do work anywhere. Do you have any jobs outside of the Auckland area?
Yeah, so I've got a little engineer to the contract job down in Queenstown that I do for a client. But typically, if there's enough to keep you going in Auckland, then, it just starts getting more. You'd lose a bit of control if you're not really there. And if, maybe that might be something in the future, but at the moment it's sort of like, let's just focus on what we're doing here.
No, that's good. I see that you won the awards for the #1 Albert Street, best in category for commercial, and excellence heritage, just recently in 23. Congratulations. That's
Yeah, thank you.
great. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, so would have been, I'm trying to think now, it would have been about 2018 when the client contacted me and they said they want someone old with grey hair to assist them deliver this quite, it's not a very, I guess it's not a huge project, but it sort of had a lot of nuances, and dealing with existing buildings is never easy. And you've got a 1970s building with it's really well built, it's a solid concrete building, it's got a facade that's a facade of its time, and services that were pretty old. So it's pretty much like performing open heart surgery on a live patient. And you've got existing tenants to deal with, you've got existing mechanical systems, fire systems, so it's just a non-stop, then you've got noise to deal with. Like it's got everything, so it's not, so I guess it was nice to get an award for it. The property council awards are always great, and sometimes you're just lucky, and you might have a project that appeals to people, and you might sort of be in a year where there's not too much competition, but we'll take the win, and it was good result.
Well, I hope you didn't have gray hair before, and then this job just.
Well, I just probably had grey hair, and now I just don't have hair.
What size of projects do you do, and what do you consider too big or too small?
There's probably no too big. The question you got to ask yourself is how can you add value to how can we add value to this project for the client? Because ultimately the clients are who you're working for, and some things you might go, well, maybe that's sort of not the right thing, or you need, and be open and honest with clients and go, well, actually you can, you're probably better off doing something else. But I guess one of the benefits of being small, it doesn't take much to keep you busy. So, which is good. And we don't want to be an army of 50 people because HR is not our specialty. So big projects are good though.
Yeah. Do you have any lined up?
Currently working on one for a company called Generous. So we're just tendering a 60-unit high-end aged care project over in Parnell. So that's just going through that at this present time. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Listen, I see that you've had CAT software since about 2019. What made you select CATProjects for managing your projects?
Well, I guess coming from a construction background, I know CATProjects is used primarily for, I guess, construction type projects. But I sort of talked to Paula and the team and said, well, you can use Aconics or something like that, but it's quite prohibitive from a cost point of view. And what I actually really want to be able to do as a project manager or a development manager is sort of convey information. So, and also have a simple platform, if you're an engineer to the contract, if you're giving directions or approving variations, you can also use that as a management tool for, managing, keeping count of the contract sum, for example, and variations, and so you've got a live running total. From a project management perspective, we've set it up on 1 Albert Street to track our consultant fees. So you just think of it. This is going to annoy all the architects and the engineers in the world, but they're like a subby in a suit, right? So they have a contract. They have, variations. They don't have retentions, but you need to sort of be able to keep a track of what's our total forecast cost for our consultant team, and that's one adaptation, if you like, because you're capturing the same information. You've got a consultancy agreement is no different from a subcontract agreement, and from a project point of view, you need to track your costs. So we just have adapted it to do that.
I see that you were using CATPlan recently. How did you find that?
I didn't personally use it a lot, but the team, we did, and this is something we did for our client at 1 Albert Street, is we did a construction management project where we actually delivered probably about 11 office floors of fit out, where we had a site manager and a QS, and we did a construction management contract. So the trade contracts were directly with Quattro, who were the client. And then basically we used CATPlan to send plans and, specifications and whatnot, so that there was a central repository of information that was live and true and people could tap into. And also then the consultant team could use it, which is, again, it's a I guess a much more cost-effective way of doing that than, and I love Aconics. It was invented by a couple of people at Multiplex years ago, but you've got to choose the right product for your project. So we've found CATPlan and CATProjects to be really simple and effective tools to do what we need to do to manage our day-to-day project life.
You briefly touched on this earlier, but how important is it to you that the CAT software is compliant for Australia and New Zealand? And you kind of touched on about the CCA.
I don't work in Australia, but certainly for what we do in New Zealand, certainly like the construction management, where consultant side, we don't have retentions to worry about too much, but obviously with our construction management offering, then that is something that is really important for, what's the retention schedule for this floor that we've finished, and, tracking insurances and, getting that little reminder, oh, well, this company's insurance is going to expire in, 30 days, and getting those little things is fantastic, because it just means you don't have to set up a spreadsheet and have someone manage it. You just, once you put the information in, then you get a whole lot of feedback at various points. So
you kind of touched on this a little bit as well, but how important to you is, say, the pricing of the CAT software?
We've found it really effective, and I guess one of the great things about it is, yes, you pay by user, great, that's fine, but what it also is good for is you can have as many projects as you want, pretty much. So, I mean, we haven't tested that to its nth degree yet, but I mean, I guess as you get more projects, then you need more licenses for staff. But I think I think it's very cost effective.
Oh, that's good. Being such a kind of a unique business, would you recommend the CAT software to other businesses like yours?
Well, if you want to get away from spreadsheets and Word documents, then yes. And I don't know if you just like how, if you want to, let's say you had to do an instruction of some sort, let's call it a contract instruction, and you have to go and type that into a Word document, and then you have to go and type it into an Excel register, and then you go and like save it as something. By the time you get to actually doing something, you've had to save it as a file, like, open up 4 different files or something, and it just is not efficient. So, I mean, if you're into saving time, I mean, I look at it and you go, well, whatever, and I'll just choose some numbers, but let's say our monthly bill for CATProjects is, I don't know, call it $850 or whatever a month or whatever for this small amount of stuff we're doing. And you go, do I think that could save us 4 hours a month? And you go, well, yes, that's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. So you go, do you want to sit there opening up and shutting down Word or Excel, or do you just want to just quickly open up a project and send something off? And then you can also, it's quite a powerful tool and it's the good thing about it's a system, right? So if you're trying to, scale a business up, then as a tool, then that is a pretty powerful tool, because you go, well, this is our system, right? You may not like everything about it, but, a tool that's like 90% effective, and you can easily get other people to use, and it's the same tool across your business, then you can get in, you can see how projects are going, how they're tracking, you can do, you can use it for all sorts of stuff. So with, the more you sort of use it, then the more applications, I guess, you can find. We even used it, I think, I don't know quite how we adapted it, but for tracking who's been inducted on site, for example.
In terms of CATProjects, what are some of the features you like the most about it?
Probably it's pretty simple to use, and it's cost effective. There'd be the two things. If I was trying to do a sales pitch for you, that'd be simple to use.
We'll use that. Have you used our support much?
Yeah, we use that a little bit, and it's probably more around a little bit of training for when you I guess called onboarding a new person or something, or you need a little bit of training for a new staff member. It's probably easier to use, and we've got a relationship with Ash, who sort of does a lot of our training down in Christchurch, and it's good just to, do I need to sit down and train someone? Probably not, but it's, and it's probably better if, you just dedicate an hour or 2 hours and you get someone to sit down with Ash and go, he's going to take you through how to do payment schedules and payment claims and all that stuff, and run a retention ledger and all of that, or if you're more on the PM side and you're going, well, how do I use this to set a project up, send out contract instructions and track information, and track insurances and how all that sort of stuff. So,
do you find you get a reply back fairly quickly and get the answers you need?
100%, yeah, that's fine.
Oh, that's great.
So never had an issue with that. So,
well, I've picked your brain. Now for the good stuff. Rugby World Cup. Do you have any picks for who's going to take it?
I think it's probably, in a lot of senses, probably the most exciting Rugby World Cup for a while, because it sort of seems to be so many potential punters. But I mean, rugby, if you look at, there's 20 teams at the World Cup. This is not the Football World Cup, right? And, the All Blacks played Uruguay this morning and went pretty well for 20 minutes. And then, then they struggled a bit. I'd always love to see the All Blacks win one, but it'd be amazing, I think, for France if they could get up and win one in front of their home country. And I've been to Twickenham in 1999 and watched the All Blacks lose against France. But the French crowd and the French supporters are amazing. So, rugby's, yes, it's about winning, but, if you're actually able to be at the tournament and be around other rugby people and have a bit of fun and a bit of banter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure the Irish would love to get up as well. I don't think they've been past the quarterfinals. So, and then South Africa are pretty tough as well. And then who knows what England's going to do. So it's,
That'll be good to watch. Well, listen, I just want to thank you for your time, Iain, and thank you for joining us on CATChats. It's great to catch up with you, and we'd love to see how you're going on in the future as well. And good luck with your tendering that you're doing right now.
Yeah, thanks very much for that. And all the best.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.